Welcome back everybody for another brand new video. Today we're going to be diving back into the Resident Evil Village DLC that we've been covering for a while now. Every week I try to pull some new articles for you guys just to get more information on when we can expect to see the DLC released, maybe some possible characters and settings, or what the plot of the DLC may be. So today we have an article from Dexerto.com. It says Resident Evil Village DLC rumors, possible setting, and characters, and this is actually a more recent article. It came out on September 21st. So we're going to dive into all of that today. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. As always, guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure to just smash that thumbs up button and consider subscribing here to stay up to date with all the gaming news we cover here on the channel. So the article's title, like I said, is Resident Evil Village DLC, Rumors, Possible Setting, and Characters. After the success of Resident Evil Village, DLC seems inevitable, but what will this entail? Let's examine what we know about our next visit to the lichen-infested hamlet. And it says this article will contain a story and ending spoilers for Resident Evil Village, so if you've not finished the main campaign, come back to the article when you can. And also, if you guys haven't played the game yet and don't want anything spoiled, I'd click out of the video now, because this is your first and final spoiler alert. When will the Resident Evil Village DLC release? The good news is Capcom confirmed that Resident Evil Village DLC is coming at the E3 2021 event, although they've not said when or what it will look like. Resident Evil 7's two major DLC packs were released roughly 1 year after the main game. Therefore, we can expect to see the Resident Evil Village DLC in spring 2022. World events in 2020 and 2021 may have slowed production down somewhat, so it's worth bearing this in mind. However, we may get our first glimpse of the Resident Evil Village DLC this winter or in early 2022. What will the Resident Evil Village DLC look like? There are several possibilities when considering what Resident Evil Village DLC will look like. Most of this has to do with the time period and setting. Any story DLC is likely to be set elsewhere, as the village was destroyed during the game's ending. However, the village itself was the star of the game in many ways, so DLC could also serve as a prequel to the events of Resident Evil Village or occur concurrently. Resident Evil 7 had two major DLCs. The first was a direct continuation of the game's events, while the second was set sometime later. In the Not a Hero DLC, Chris Redfield rescued Ethan and Mia, then went after villain Lucas Baker. The End of Zoe DLC involved Joe Baker, Jack Baker's brother, returning to his family's home during the BSAA cleanup. Molded zombies continued to attack despite the death of Evelyn, so Joe goes on a heroic mission to rescue his niece and avoid what he thinks is still evil Umbrella Corporation. Resident Evil Village could do something similar. There's a range of characters that the future story-based DLC chapters could follow. Chris Redfield, Chris's last seen escaping the exploding village with his team along with Mia and Rose Winters. He's visibly mourning Ethan and regretting his part in the events that unfolded. What's worse, his former employer, the BSAA, used bioweapons to fight against Mother Miranda and her minions. Chris is not too pleased about this. A DLC chapter could continue Chris's adventure, seeing him confront the BSAA in Europe and get to the bottom of what's happened. This could tie up loose ends with Resident Evil 6, 7, and Village, and even set the scene for Resident Evil 9. Rose Winters. After the credits of Resident Evil Village roll, there's a time jump to a now grown-up Rose Winters visiting her father's grave. Although we don't get any actual confirmation that Ethan's body was ever recovered from the crater that was once the village, after paying her respects, Rose then gets into a truck and threatens her handler when he makes an insensitive joke about her history. It becomes clear as Rose is considered a bioweapon and is under a SWAT team and sniper surveillance. She tells the agent that she can do things not even Chris Redfield knows about, implying her powers are more potent than they realize. Then they drive off and appear to stop when approached by a figure resembling Ethan in the distance. This could be setting up Resident Evil 9 or possibly story DLC. However, as this seems to be set years after Chris confronts the BSAA, our guess is that alluding to a sequel rather than the future Resident Evil Village content. This is unless Rose has aged rapidly as Evelyn did. After all, Rose gets her powers from Evelyn's mold. Mia Winters. Players took control of Mia for a portion of Resident Evil 7. The character is trapped in a cell for most of Resident Evil Village, but the developers could build a DLC chapter around her. We know from Resident Evil 7 that Mia is formidable in combat and has military training. If she escaped from her cell, she could have caused all sorts of trouble for Mother Miranda. This is just one possibility for story content that would allow the developers to reuse assets from the game and continue to set it in the village. It could also offer some tantalizing lore drops and insight into the game's villain. This is especially true if Miranda stalks and taunts and escaped Mia before recapturing her. The Hound Wolf Squad. If Capcom decides to take an action-heavy approach, then we could get to play as Chris's team. The Hound Wolf Squad weren't in the game for very long, but there's certainly scope to flesh the characters out some more. Each member made quite an impression, and the banter between them was entertaining. This would also allow the developers to set the DLC back in the village. The BSAA turns up towards the end of Resident Evil Village and starts shooting Miranda's minions. But why are they there? And why are Chris and his team displeased by the arrival and keen to avoid them, especially if they are there to help? A DLC chapter could explain these things in more detail. The BSAA's role in earlier games was to fight bioterror, and Chris was a leading member. What happened since Resident Evil 7 to make him sour on them? Could the BSAA have different, potentially murderous thoughts on how to deal with the Winters family? We also don't know if Chris's former STARS ally still works for them in the BSAA. So, if so, then characters like Jill Valentine and Barry Burton could return in a BSAA-themed DLC chapter. Now, I think this is going to be a big one for everyone, as it was a selling point for the game, but Lady Dimitrescu. Lady D was the breakout star of Resident Evil Village. Capcom was surprised by her popularity during the earlier trailers. After this, they then focused a lot on their marketing around her. Some fans were disappointed that Lady D was killed off so early in the game. Despite the obvious reasons on the internet's infatuation with her, being stalked around her castle by her was some of Resident Evil Village's most memorable gameplay. It wouldn't be a surprise if Capcom brought her back for the DLC. And then, just last to finish off the characters, Ada Wong, Elena, and others. Some of the early Resident Evil concept art saw series regular Ada Wong dressed up as a plague doctor, suggesting that she was originally going to be in the game. DLC could focus on this, reusing these assets and giving Ada a mission during the game's events. Resident Evil 2, 4, 6 all saw Ada doing her own thing in the background, although she did interact with the protagonist at times in these games. Another DLC idea is the origins of the mold outbreak. In the village, Elena seems an obvious candidate for this. DLC could see Elena going about her everyday village life as lichens and zombies start to appear and kill her neighbors. If Capcom decides to do an action-heavy DLC, this one could be more of a survival horror focused. So that's going to do it for today's deep dive in the Resident Evil Village DLC rumors and speculations. I'm really leaning towards a Chris Redfield DLC or the Ada Wong one, just because it was supposed to be in the game originally, and just to see the concept they had for it would be really cool. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below, and what form you'd like to see. I know Lady D being back would be a huge selling point for the series, as it was when the game came out. So I don't know how they're gonna, if they bring her back, how they work her in, just because obviously you killed her originally earlier on in the game. So I don't know, maybe if they do make some kind of prequel where someone roams in her castle and she becomes stalking them around the castle again. I don't know, but that'd be cool. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below. If you guys did enjoy the video, just be sure to smash the thumbs up button. Consider subscribing here if you guys are new to the channel, and just turn on the notification bell so you guys never miss uploads. I think we have like 15% of all subscribers with notification bells on, so that's pretty cool to see. But yeah, I appreciate everyone's support. We're almost at 600 subscribers, and hopefully we can hit YouTube Partner by the end of the year and do our giveaway that we're trying to do. Just be on the lookout for that. The details are in the description. As always, my name's Ross, and I'll see you guys in the next video.